So recently I made a reaction to a video by this content creator, Brianne Worth. I'll put a link to this video in the description, so please go follow her channel, go subscribe to her channel. She makes a lot of funny content about Australia. I thought this one stood out as being potentially could be quite funny. It's called Australian Answers the Most Commonly Googled Questions About Australia. So yeah, very intrigued to find out what the most commonly Googled questions about Australia are. She's quite funny, as I said, so it'd be quite interesting and funny to see her take on it. And I thought the concept for this video would be quite good as well. I thought I'd quite like to do something similar for Scotland. So if you've got any questions about Scotland, please ask them in the comments, and maybe I'll make a video about that. But let's check this one out.
Alright, so I recently made a video where I answered the most commonly Googled questions about women as a woman. And in that video, I mentioned that I didn't want to make the Australian equivalent of that video. So naturally you guys asked me to, and naturally I'm going to do it anyway. Your girl is a little bit sick at the moment, so just ignore the whole voice situation. Alright, let's get on the old Google machine. Oh, it's the fall equinox today. Great. I reckon we're going to start with why do Australians say mate? Off to a great start. You know what? Let's Google it. Mateship as devotion to the nation and convict history. Look, I don't think that's why Australians say mate. And etiquette.
It's just to do with the convict history, is that correct? But I can guess because a lot of the convicts I think were from the UK, from Great Britain. And that's actually something that I find is very similar with Australia. In the UK, as we say mate all the time as well. I'm not sure if it's as much as Australians, but it's something very prominent in our vocabulary as well.
Lesson on using the term mate in Australia, written by Paula McKinley. Number one, men use mate, women capitalised never do. Paula, do I have some news for you? Men should never ever say mate to a woman, or you're likely to get slapped down or hated forever after. Well, Paula doesn't
that cannot be true.
About, and that still doesn't answer why we use the term mate. I don't fucking know, alright? Why do Australians celebrate Australia Day? I'm not even touching that. Fuck no. How do Australians celebrate Christmas? With heat stroke and alcoholism. That's pretty...
Yes, man, that's like very succinct and straight to the point. It's very similar in the UK also. We have alcoholism, but it's not sunstroke, it's frostbite, man.
Be spot on. We sit in like 30 to 40 degree heat. Sometimes there's a cyclone. That's happened once. I think it was only a category 3, but that was like the one year it wasn't hot for Christmas. But despite the fact that we're sitting effectively in a pile of sweat, we still eat all of like the traditional foods that British people and Americans eat. Like hot winter food, like roasts and shit. Doesn't make any sense.
You think it would be better to eat anything different?
Not very well. How do Australians say British people and Americans eat? Like hot winter food, like roasts and shit. Doesn't make any sense. How do Australians talk? Not very well. How do Australians say Merry Christmas? Why is that a popular search? How do Australians dress? Like shit. I think Australian dress sense swings wildly from like super bogan and barely dressed at all to like really nicely dressed. You can walk down the street and have one person be like really well put together, really like nice and clean, super stylish, and then the next person has more holes in their pants than they have teeth in their mouth, and they've got like a bum bag and no shoes.
Jeez, man, that's quite a diss. But yeah, when I was in Australia, I felt it was like quite nice because everybody was, for me, in my opinion, they were quite smartly dressed, but in a casual way, if that makes sense. So it was like smart casual, but not like as in wearing a suit jacket and stuff. It was just like dressed quite nicely, man. Even compared to UK. In the UK, we have a lot of people who dress not so good as well.
And that's me. How do Australian elections work? You have to vote, or you get a fine, and then you vote.
You get fined if you don't vote.
There's two major parties, there's Liberal and Labor. Liberal is not Liberal, it's Conservative, and Labor is more of a Liberal party. Good luck with that. And then there's like the independent parties, there's like the Australian Greens as well, which is an environmental, doing a lot of good shit party. You can Google the rest yourself.
I am interested in politics, so give me a rundown of what the current situation is. How are the current incumbent government thought of?
You can Google the rest yourself. Do Australians need a visa for Bali? You actually don't if it's for less than like 30 days or something. You should double check that before going. Do Australians like Americans? Yeah, as a whole, but your government and like some of your people are a bit fucked. You have much bigger pizza sizes than we have though, so you're doing that right. We don't even get an option, it's just small. and that's the size. We should meet up and take notes. You can have our gun control ideas and we'll take your pizza. Does Australia have nukes? Don't think so. What would Australia do with nukes? Really, what would we be doing with them? Does Australia have freedom of speech? Not
Yeah, tell me more about that as well, because I follow the Australian YouTuber Friendly Geordies I think it is, and I know that he's having a lot of trouble with the media, like the traditional mainstream media. I didn't realise it was like that. It seems almost similar to how like the British media, which can be quite bad, man, in a way. Like I know that Rupert Murdoch has a lot of influence, or like the biggest influence in Australian media. Tell me more about that as well.
Does Australia have freedom of speech? Not as a right, no, we actually don't. There's definitely like an implied freedom of speech here, but we also have like hate speech laws and things like that, which can't exist if freedom of speech exists. Some people think not having freedom of speech as a specific written out right is a bad thing, but Australia doesn't even have a Bill of Rights at all. I think freedom of speech is a really good idea in theory, and I think you should definitely be free to talk about things, especially politically. And there shouldn't be like this shutting down of conversation just because someone is uncomfortable or someone disagrees with it. And you can disagree with having hate speech laws as even being a thing, and that's an argument that you can have, but true freedom of speech can't even exist alongside things like defamation laws, or laws, for example, that say you can't go up and threaten people. You can't walk up to people and threaten to kill them, even though that is technically freedom of speech, because it's their right to be safe as well. So that's where I think like true freedom of speech in theory, yeah, great idea, but in practice doesn't actually work. Does Australia have rabies? Does Australia have rabies? Rabies virus does not currently occur in land-dwelling animals in Australia. Sweet. There is a virus called ABLV related to the rabies virus, which you can get from bats, though. Don't go rolling around in bat shit and you'll be fine. Does Australia have alligators? Alligators are for pussies. We've got crocodiles. We're home to the largest living reptile on the planet and the scariest fucking animal on the planet as well, in my opinion, the saltwater crocodile. There's a bunch of documentaries on YouTube about the evolutionary adaptations of saltwater crocodiles. I shit you not, they are not of this earth, except there's so much of this.
Should I make a reaction to that? It sounds quite interesting.
On the planet, they are fucked. They are fucked. They can survive anything. If we don't destroy the planet, even if we do, they're still going to be here. I respect their hustle. I'm proud of them, but I'm shit scared of saltwater crocodiles. Does Australia Post deliver on weekends? Australia Post barely delivers anything ever. Does Australia have volcanoes? No. There are no volcanoes. No volcanoes. Does Australia get, holy shit, okay. Alright, let's bulk answer these. Does Australia get tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, tsunamis, snow, cold, taxed on lotto, any snow, snow in winter, or much snow? The answer to all of those is yes. Does Australia have free healthcare? Better believe it. When I broke my foot, which is doing really well, thank you guys for asking, I can kind of walk normally again. But when that happened, I hobbled straight into a hospital and within an hour had been x-rayed, seen by a doctor, given the shoe thing and hobbled right back out. So, and have had free checkups since then.
That's one thing like I never knew too much about. Actually, I've never really thought about the Australian healthcare. As someone who's like potentially being interested in moving to Australia, but does that also apply to foreigners who move to Australia, or do they still have to pay? I know that here in Malaysia, locals, it's pretty much free for healthcare, but for foreigners it costs, and it can be quite costly as well. But actually, maybe I'll make a reaction video to Australian healthcare as well. That may be quite an interesting topic, or even a comparison between that and the British healthcare system too.
Had free checkups since then. Does Australia have winter? If you're in like the Northern Territory or Northern Queensland, not really. If you're in Brisbane, barely anymore. When I moved to Brisbane 5 years ago, we had like a very cold winter for my standards, which is still not cold for like Melbourne standards. But last winter, I shit you not, was just not cold except for 2 days. And that was when I was at Splendor, and that wasn't even in Queensland, it was technically in New South Wales. And winter started like a month and a half late and it finished super early. So I don't even think we really have a winter anymore. Can Australia defend itself? Probably not. We have like a lot of coastline and a lot of it's very hospitable to like people coming in, but we can't defend all of that. Good luck. Why do you think we sit down here with New Zealand and just don't start shit with anyone? We just make friends with people with nukes and hope for the best. Will Australia become a republic? Dunno. Will Australia go to war? I think we're in a lot of wars at the moment that we really have nothing to do with. Will Australia be invaded? Probably. Will Australia run out of water? I mean, everyone will at some stage, but we have so many. We've got like more dams than Germany, so we are set. Unless you're in the wrong spot, then you're fucked. Will Australia go into recession? We didn't during the GFC. We probably will though. It's us. Why is Australia so hot? The sun. Why is Australia so expensive? It's really hard to get anything here. We live on an island in the middle of nowhere. Why
true.
is Australia Post so slow? Honestly, don't even get me started. Why is Australia's internet so slow? I'm finishing this video. It's gonna get me riled up.
I really enjoyed that. Quite a lot of interesting things to like actually find out about Australia. I didn't expect to like find out so many things. Tell me more about that last one. Is the internet bad in Australia? How is it, like the broadband speed and thing? Does it vary between like different big cities? I guess in the like the outback, in the sort of the more desolate regions, it will be obviously not as good. That just kind of makes sense. But very good as always, very funny, man. So go subscribe to our channel, tell me what you think about all of those, and yeah, ask me some questions about Scotland. Maybe I'll make a video about that. Thanks.